Part 108. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1074. Jia Yan originally didn't want to fight again with his clone. After all, his clone was already somewhat powerless in the face of such a level of military conflict, not to mention that the other party was likely to have someone stronger than his clone, even as strong as his real body. However, if he does something with this body, he can always slow down the enemy's attack speed. Just as Jia Yan was thinking about this, he saw out of the corner of his eye that an external force fleet was rapidly advancing tens of thousands of kilometers away from the interstellar space, seemingly coming to rescue the previous 10 warships. Let's fight. He moved the waist of his avatar, and then a fierce flash of light flashed in his eyes. Not long after that, in the place where there was no defense line, there was an extremely large military fortress. What? Has the so-called strongest man in the Orion arm appeared again? Humph, I thought he didn't dare to come out, but he still dared to show up. In this situation, what's the use of him showing up? But this kind of strong man does pose some obstacles to us. Katai, you go deal with him. Yes. In this military fortress, a terrifying creature walked out of the fortress menacingly. The war lasted for several months, and the empires and civilizations in the Orion arm that were close to the original defense line were attacked by the army of external creatures one by one. When the strength of the powerful, the level of technology, and even the size of the fleet are at a disadvantage, no civilization can organize an effective counterattack, and some civilizations even surrender with almost no moral integrity. Civilizations that can surrender will not end well. When the other party transports the external environment machine to those civilizations, the entire area of ordinary creatures will die, which is basically equivalent to genocide. What about being without a line of defense? What about being a strong Orion arm? What about a great empire? It's all bullshit. Our civilization is being killed by them now. According to the outside world, the creatures came here to get something from the great empire. The great empire actually put our entire Orion arm into crisis because of this thing. He is our enemy. Yes, there is also Mr. Jia Yan. I thought he was brave before, but now. It has been known for a long time that he is a creature from the outside world. I think it is correct. He is a high-level undercover agent. We have all been deceived by him. Well, Mr. Jia Yan is not necessarily a bad person, but he protects his civilization too tightly. His Earth civilization has not had any casualties so far. Now that outside creatures have invaded, they will attack one day. From Earth, let's see how he stands idly by when the time comes. On a certain civilized planet that was attacked by the enemy, the ordinary inhabitants almost collapsed. They knew that although the outside invaders did not directly kill them, but only suppress the gathering of creatures, death would still be waiting for them. So they began to hate, not only the great empire that caused all this, but also Jia Yan, who seemed to have not tried his best during the war. Although the great empire did not name the defeat of Cao Wo's defense line, it implicitly shifted the responsibility to Jia Yan. After all, at the last moment, Jia Yan, the so-called strongest man in the Orion arm, did not fight at all. Of course, Jia Yan is from the Earth, and the Earth civilization is just a low-level civilization. He has no interest at all in the Cao self-defense line. It is understandable that Jia Yan does not risk his life fighting in the Cao self-defense line. He has not seen the great empire. Flame, one of the two powerful men, also finally withdrew from the battlefield and fled without a fight. But there are always ordinary creatures who are affected and put the blame on Jia Yan. Forget it, we are all going to die. What's the point of scolding these powerful men? If we scold them, will they suddenly appear and save us? On this planet, pessimism is everywhere, but they still dare not resist. If someone appears and saves us, I will be his follower for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, Such aloof creatures don't care about the life and death of a small existence like us. A wry smile sounded in the shadow corner. Indeed, for the entire Orion arm, the creatures on a planet, or even a civilization, are not too important. No one would believe that any savior would appear in such a star that fell into the hands of the enemy. But unfortunately, the savior really appeared. Boom! Just when all the astral creatures were extremely pessimistic, a loud noise resounded in the occupying army's gunpowder magazine. Along with the explosion of the gunpowder magazine, there were screams and roars everywhere, as if the occupying troops were being attacked by some terrible enemy. But the people on the entire planet did not react at all. When they reacted, the battle within the star had reached its final moments. A single creature, sweeping away with the power of brain waves, enters the subspace from time to time, killing powerful enemies. In just over half an hour, the gunpowder magazine that was supposed to explode exploded on the entire star, and the strong man that needed to be killed was also killed. Residents of Hong Sing, what are you afraid of at this time? My name is Jia Yan, and I am here to help you. Now pick up your weapons and open the door to freedom. When this sound resounded in the brains of almost every ordinary creature, the original inhabitants of the entire planet went crazy. Lord Jia Yan? It's actually Lord Jia Yan who came to rescue us. Oh my God, I was talking bad about Master Jia Yan just now. I was wrong. It turns out that Master Jia Yan is paying attention to ordinary creatures like us. Woohoo, if I can be saved, I will definitely become a follower of Master Jia Yan for life. Haha, come on. Your Majesty has opened the door for us to survive. The next step is up to us. One by one, the residents rushed out of their houses and started fighting to the death with the remaining outsiders. In the enemy's temporary headquarters in the star, there was indeed a faint figure standing. He is Jia Yan. Since my clone cannot cause too much damage to the opponent's army head-on, then I will destroy their rear areas one by one. If there is a fire in the backyard, their progress will be delayed under such circumstances. This is Jia Yan's plan. On the frontal battlefield, his clone really doesn't have much effect. After all, facing thousands of warships, even if it was Jia Yan's clone, he could only escape for his life if the opponent fired a salvo. But attacking the rear is different. Using the speed of his flight cabin and personal subspace capabilities, there is almost no place he can't reach in the universe. Such a sudden attack on a planet in the rear will catch the opponent completely off guard. This planet is already the third planet he has attacked in a similar way. Originally this was the border of a civilization on the edge of a certain Orion arm, but now it is occupied by the army of outside forces, and every citizen is praying for the rescue of the strong. For Jia Yan's one-man raid, the saved creatures were extremely grateful. It just so happens that the quality of the creatures in this civilization is generally very high. They have robbed the warships of outside creatures. Although it is impossible to develop combat skills all at once, they are definitely enough to escape. Then all the creatures on the planet began to flee, causing chaos in the starry sky behind them. In this chaos, Jia Yan disappeared again. Asshole! That Jia Yan is too cunning. We chased him here, but he ran away again. Not long after Jia Yan disappeared, a fleet arrived. They didn't bother to chase the various ordinary biological aircraft that were escaping in all directions, but just searched for Jia Yan's figure. But Jia Yan had left long ago, and they couldn't find anything at all. This, of course, caused the other party to be extremely angry. In this fleet, a huge creature was almost going crazy with rage. I am a majestic and half-star level being. It is a big joke that I am still unable to catch up with a venerable person. You guys should carefully calculate where he may appear next. If you can't catch him again, you will all be killed. Just wait to die. The behemoth was almost furious, and his words made all of Zhou's subordinates remain silent. There is no other way. Jia Yan, who has a space capsule in the starry sky and is talented in space, would not be easy to catch him in the vast starry sky if he just wants to avoid him. But it's not enough if he doesn't catch him. The damage he caused in a few days has already affected the advancement speed of the army. Fortunately, Nagiyan did not attack the important stronghold star, otherwise our losses would have been great. The half-star existence found luck in misfortune. But how could such a death curse come out so casually? Half a day after he said this, urgent information from the rear came. What? Jia Yan really attacked one of our important strongholds. 2 sub-level generals died in the battle, and important energy supplies were detonated. This. The half-star creature almost spurted out a mouthful of blood. Chai, I still don't believe it. Jia Yan, a little loach, can still escape the pursuit of our army. Also, send the message out and set up ambushes at certain strongholds so that Jia Yan can never come back. The chase continued for several days. The news of Jia Yan's attack in the enemy's rear was also revealed to the outside civilized army through some Orion armed creatures who had a lucky escape. It seems that the resistance from the outside world has also intensified, which has slightly reduced the pressure on Jia Yan in the enemy's rear. But despite this, his pressure was still increasing. The active defense artillery fire on the stronghold star we attacked before almost killed this clone. It was terrifying. In the dark interstellar space, a space capsule with almost no energy was parked quietly on the surface of a certain interstellar material. Jia Yan's clone is in the space capsule. If his current human body were seen by people on Earth, they would definitely scream in shock. Because of his body, a terrible wound now appeared from his abdomen, completely shattering half of his body, and the internal organs inside could be seen. But his body is not a real living thing, and even his life support system is not a normal biological system, so he is able to survive now. However, due to the special constitution, although the clone did not die, it could not heal itself quickly. It can be said that it is lingering. What's more terrifying is behind. Haha, Jia Yan, our newly developed detector already knows that you are here. Come out if you are sensible, are reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1075. The sound of the high-pitched broadcaster was constantly blaring near the interstellar matter. Jia Yan's eyes moved slightly, but he didn't make any move. The voice of the broadcaster seemed close, but it was thousands of kilometers away. If his position was really determined, he must have attacked directly. The interstellar matter is not surrounded by nothing, but there are countless similar stars. It is not easy for the other party to find him in this countless matter. I was careless, so careless. The stronghold star I attacked before turned out to be their conspiracy, and I fell into the trap stupidly. Jia Yan shook his head, and then looked at his clone's injuries. The injury was very serious. Not only was the clone's combat power completely different from the real body, but its recovery ability was extremely weak. Not to mention the real body, it seemed to be inferior even compared to ordinary venerables. Therefore, the current clone may not be able to defeat even an ordinary venerable person. The injury cannot be recovered quickly, and the other party is also actively searching for the interstellar material here, which is only a few thousand kilometers away. It is only a matter of time before I am found. It's a pity, but can this clone only go so far? Alas! Jia Yan let out a long sigh. As a clone of the Venerable, he has done very well. At least after the Kaowo defense line was crossed, he went to the back of the opponent's base camp alone and stirred up trouble for several days, causing a certain degree of damage. Considered a great achievement. If this clone is destroyed now, there is nothing that can be done, after all, it is too weak. Haha, is it on this star? Hey, it's not. Jia Yan watched as dozens of warships slowly approached the interstellar material. All the stars they saw along the way were destroyed by their warship gunfire. As interstellar matter is destroyed like this, his star will also be shot, and he will definitely be exposed. Even if this clone dies, we still have to get some interest. A ruthless look flashed in Jia Yan's eyes. It must be this one. Die, Jia Yan. A warship flew in front of Jia Yan's star, and then the muzzle of the main gun lit up. The next moment, there would be fierce artillery fire, destroying the entire star. Jia Yan's face hardened at the same time, ready to escape at any moment. At this critical moment, outside the interstellar matter, lightning-like artillery fire was fired at these dozens of external biological warships. Although the artillery fire in the sky was not so bright, it still made Jia Yan's heart move. The warship that was supposed to destroy Jia Yan's planet with one shot was hit by gunfire on its entire side, and then erupted into an explosion of light. Unfortunately, the sudden gunfire was not powerful enough and only left a dent on the surface of the battleship. The same is true for the battles of several attacked external forces. Their armor is too hard. Even if the sneak attackers have fired their main guns, they cannot severely damage these warships. Who is it? How dare you go against us? The dozens of warships, including Jia Yan, all looked at the starry sky outside in surprise. It turned out that tens of thousands of kilometers away, there were more than 20 warships floating there scatteredly. Their appearance is almost patchy, and you can tell by looking at it that it is not a regular fleet. Haha, you bastards from the outside world, you are like incompetent fools. You can't even destroy our group of wandering fleets, and you still want to occupy our Orion arm? Go to hell with us. The 20-odd warships launched a wave of attacks, and at the same time started joking and cursing loudly on the public channel. This group of lunatics from the outside world are looking for death. Let's go over and deal with them. A group of warships from outside forces were almost furious. Since they attacked the Orion arm, they had always attacked the fleet within the Orion arm. How could the Orion arm fleet sneak attack them in turn? But sir, we haven't caught Jia Yan yet. What Jia Yan? He might have died somewhere long ago, and even if he survived with that kind of injury, he would not be able to fight within a few years. Besides, what if he still has fighting ability? Could he still be able to turn the world upside down? Ignore him for now. I won't be willing to destroy this group of bastards in front of me. A group of external force warships launched a counterattack almost instantly, charging towards the tattered fleet tens of thousands of kilometers away. Run! Lord Jia Yan, run away! At this moment, Jia Yan miraculously heard an anxious voice coming from the space cabin. Jia Yan is very familiar with this communication channel. He was the owner of this channel before and reported the battle information of Kaowo defense line to him every day. It turns out that they are the original communication fleet of the defense line. Isn't this kind of fleet not very powerful in combat? They actually jumped out to attract the enemy for me. Jia Yan was silent. Sir, we will buy time for you. You are the strongest member of our Orion arm and our hope for the future. Run away. As long as you are here, the Orion arm will never be defeated. Jia Yan heard the voice that had reported the battle situation to him many times before, and gradually heard the news under the gunfire. At the end of the starry sky, more than 20 warships were quickly transformed into explosive flames that soared into the sky under the advanced artillery fire of the outside fleet. There was even one that rushed towards the enemy warship group. I don't know if it was God's blessing, but he actually rushed in front of the enemy warship under gunfire, and then self-destruct and the light lit up. The Great Empire's warships were much weaker than the others as a whole, but the power of self-destruction should not be underestimated. As expected, the two external warships were destroyed in the explosion of war. Jia Yan was silent. He didn't know how these 20-odd shabby battleships survived in the enemy's rear. Judging from their shabby appearance, they must have suffered a lot and experienced many dangers. He didn't even know how they knew that he was seriously injured and still hid here. At the same time, he didn't know why they made the decision to rescue Jia Yan with these 24 shabby warships. Everything was lost in the unresolved light of the destruction of more than 20 battleships. But the only thing Jia Yan understands is, he can't live up to the wishes of this group of warriors. The space capsule started slightly, but its speed was barely comparable to that of an ordinary battleship. When the energy is exhausted, it is impossible to enter subspace. Haha, let me kill all these ants. Tens of thousands of kilometers away, dozens of outside warships were slaughtering tattered warships like crazy. Huh? There's an energy warning from behind, it's Jia Yan. It's easy to get there, let's go. A battleship discovered the energy fluctuations behind it, and then activated the battleship to pursue Jia Yan's space capsule. Don't even think about leaving. A shabby warship with no defense line in the rear came to it like crazy, spraying firepower like crazy. Although he was not afraid, the warship that wanted to pursue Jia Yan was still delayed for a few minutes. The same was true for the other warships, which were held back by the dilapidated warships that were almost destroyed. Lord Jia Yan, I wish you a prosperous military career. Finally, Jia Yan's space capsule was accelerated by the acceleration power, and when he used up his last strength and slowly increased the speed to extremely fast, he received the last communication sound from behind. Then there was a loud explosion inside the communicator. Jia Yan's face darkened. Then he turned around, and the battle behind him had long been invisible. At least millions of kilometers away, his clone couldn't see anything. But the outcome of the battle is known without guessing. Jia Yan didn't speak. After looking at it for a moment, he raised his arm and saluted the battle area with a standard Chinese salute. Although he didn't even know their names, Jia Yan still remembered them. This was the first time that Jia Yan identified with aliens. Even if I helped them fight before, most of them were doing it for the Earth and their families. For your efforts, I will keep this clone. Jia Yan doesn't really value his clones, but others do, and they even risk their lives to protect his clones, so now he has stopped thinking about not caring about his clones. The soldiers on the communication ship were right. This clone has now become the belief of the people in the Orion Arm. In Jia Yan's view, the clone is just a clone, but in the eyes of others, he is the strongest Orion Arm hero and the Orion Arm hero who has killed countless enemies. The clone cannot die. Obviously, there are many people who hold similar ideas. Lord Jia Yan? We are the Starry Sky Wanderers who were rescued by you before. We already know the situation. Come with us. We have energy and secret star paths here to leave this battle starry sky. Just when Jia Yan was thinking about how to keep his clone, another communication request was sent to his space capsule. Then he saw a communication fleet that was even more shabby than the previous one, and even had several exploding aircraft flying near his space capsule. This kind of ship, not to mention Jia Yan was not injured, can be easily killed even in the current situation. You. Jia Yan was silent for a moment. Your Excellency, you doubt our identity. We can prove that you even met me when you saved our planet. The communicating creature seemed to be worried about Jia Yan's suspicion, and then told some stories about the time when Jia Yan casually saved a certain planet. He also said that he swore that day to follow Jia Yan for the rest of his life. Okay, I believe you, take me away. After a period of deep silence, Jia Yan agreed to the other party's request to lead the way. What happened next was simple. He was taken to a place similar to a starship battleship tomb. A war had been fought there before, and obviously the enemy had not thought that a group of wanderers would soon come there to seek survival, so this group of wanderers made a temporary home there. Sir, here is the super high energy you want. Although we are in urgent need of it, your matters are more important. After replacing the energy, you should leave this combat area as soon as possible. Jia Yan shook his head as he watched a group of ordinary creatures, almost all of them injured, install an almost intact energy device into the space capsule, and the abdominal wound was carefully treated. He said nothing more. RW. No pop-up novel website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1076. For Jia Yan, some ripples in his heart are not as simple as his clone being helped. A few hours passed in a hurry, and it was time to part ways again. You guys live well, I will be back within a month at most. This was what Jia Yan said cautiously when several creatures smiled and urged him to board the ship and boarded the recharged space capsule. A month. What he said was not a lie at all, because the real body was getting closer and closer. Haha, of course we trust you, sir, but you don't have to worry about us. Maybe we can find another energy device here and then drive a battleship to escape from the frontline star field. It turns out that the energy device they gave Jia Yan was what they used to escape. Well, I wish you a smooth escape. My lord, go on your way, I wish you good luck in martial arts. Jia Yan said goodbye to a group of about 500 to 600 creatures. This group of creatures didn't have many soldiers, they were just aborigines of this starry sky, but for him, they gave up their chance of escape. This kind of kindness is really owed. But since I promised the previous communication soldiers not to die easily, I will seize any opportunity to escape. Then, I will bring my true body and fight back. I am Jia Yan, the protector. Not only the protector of the earth, from now on, I am also the protector of the Orion arm, and will always be in the future. The scenes that happened before made Jia Yan strengthen his belief. Due to the charging of the space capsule, it can enter the subspace and its speed is much faster than before. Although it cannot reach the peak, it may be able to enter the subspace, which means that Jia Yan's clone can easily escape from the front line. 10 days later, a certain star field was still in the hands of the Orion arm civilization. A small aircraft quickly jumped out of the empty dark starry sky. Have you already flown out of the front line? In the aircraft, Jia Yan's clone looked at everything around him calmly, and then looked ahead. He was flying towards an inhabited planet. The speed of invasion by outside forces exceeded Jia Yan's expectations. It had only been a few months, and even with Jia Yan's destructive actions in the rear, he was still invading the Orion arm at the speed of light. We shouldn't say the speed of light, we should say it's faster than the speed of light. Jia Yan used the space capsule to fly quickly in subspace. It took 10 days before he arrived at the Orion arm star area, which was already on the front line. The star map shows that this place is actually very close to the solar system. When Jia Yan flew towards the inhabited planet, he took a look at the star map in the space capsule and discovered a fact that shocked him. This star area is actually the border of the Asta Empire. As long as the enemy kills the Asta Empire, the star area where the Earth is located will follow. Such an attacking speed is simply staggering. The enemy's attack speed is too fast. Obviously the opponent is attacking so aggressively because there are certain obstacles or hidden dangers on their side, otherwise they would not be so hasty. But this is not what I want to understand now. I just want to think about the opponent. The attack speed is so fast, will it attack the solar system before the real body arrives? That is what I don't want to see. Jia Yan was thinking in his heart, but when he glanced at the border star of the Asta Empire, his eyes froze slightly. It turned out that on that planet, there were not only many battleships and ordinary aircraft that had fled from the civilization ahead, but also a group of Asta Empire fleets were waiting seriously. Jia Yan was not paying attention to these. What he saw at a glance was a fleet of more than 500 warships near the Asta fleet that seemed to be poorly trained. Jia Yan is very familiar with this fleet symbol, because the symbol only appeared with his consent. The ships in that fleet looked extremely advanced, because they were friendly gifts from the great empire. Yes, it is an Earth fleet. What happened to these people on Earth? Kikai is not enough, and now a bunch of them are here to seek death. Jia Yan felt a little angry. But after thinking about it, he sighed again. You must know that Jia Yan also understands that when Jia Qi went to Kaowo defense line before, she was bewitched, but this Earth fleet is different. Behind the Asta Empire is the Earth. Although the current Earth's battleship strength is not as good as that of older empires such as the Great Empire, with its large and advanced battleships, even if it is insufficiently trained, it will definitely exceed the strength of the Asta Empire. In this case, the Asta Empire will definitely ask for help from the Earth's military. This is the real crisis. As long as the Earth's top leaders are mentally normal, they will definitely send part of the fleet to support. There is nothing wrong with this, especially since Jia Yan has penetrated deep into the enemy's lines, and now they don't know whether they will live or die, so they can only rely on their own strategy. Sigh. People on Earth will have to face this moment. I really shouldn't be overly protective anymore. Jia Yan let out a long sigh. Stop, may I ask where your ship comes from, and what is its purpose in coming to our defense line? Just as Jia Yan's space capsule slowly approached the defense line, a speedboat approached Jia Yan's space capsule. Although the other party seemed familiar with Jia Yan's space capsule, he did not immediately realize that it was Jia Yan's vehicle. After all, no one would have thought that one day they would see with their own eyes the #1 strongman who was extremely famous in the entire Orion arm and was like a god. In the intercepted speedboat, several pilots looked at the aircraft in front of them, thinking that it contained other civilized people who had escaped from some direction. But they were also surprised that such a small aircraft could actually cross the vast starry sky, which was a bit shocking. Well, how do I look at it? This aircraft looks like Master Jia Yan's car. Suddenly, there was no response from Jia Yan. A driver in the speedboat finally discovered the true identity of the space capsule. You must know that the space capsule, as Jia Yan's vehicle, once made a big splash when the Kaowo defense line existed. After all, no one's aircraft can travel back and forth quickly within a few light years. At that time, almost all civilized scientists were studying and thinking about how such a small size could achieve that kind of speed. Even the public is aware of the space capsule. Although some people imitate it, they are completely unable to achieve that performance. Hey, I think it's similar when you say that. No, there should be an admirer of Lord Jia Yan inside. When they were all amazed, Jia Yan in the space capsule transmitted the power of brain waves in a timely manner. The space capsule has been damaged several times, and now even the communication function is having problems. I am Jia Yan, take me to meet the top defense officials of your planet. Huh? Actually, it's really. When Jia Yan's brainwave power was released, he did not hide the intensity of his brainwave power. After all, now was not the time to waste time, so he directly used the brainwave power that belongs to the strong. Although this strength has been greatly reduced due to injury, it is still worthy of reaching the level of a sage. Under the pressure of force, his identity was immediately accepted. Sir, please come with us. Several speedboat creatures quickly spoke respectfully to Jia Yan and notified the defense line at the same time. At the same time, within the defense line, there was a wave of discussions about war. You Earthlings actually want to compete with us for dominance. How many interstellar wars have you fought? Although your warships are better, that doesn't mean you can use them well. That's right, I think you people on Earth can't even control the battleship well. Now I propose that not only the people on Earth cannot control the leadership of the battle line, but also your battleships must be given up. You must know that the next war will matter. In the life and death war between our major civilizations, good tools must be mastered by those who know how to use them. Within the defense line of this planet, there are not only the Asta Empire people, but also the fleets of several nearby civilizations. In the Parliament Hall at this time, an Earthling fleet executive was quarreling with the fleet executives of several major civilizations. This defense line has just been established. Due to the running in, misunderstandings and accidents often occur during training. Considering the convenience of future wars, all major fleets on the front have agreed to form a temporary defense line general command department. However, several major civilizations began to have differences regarding the leadership of the command department. You civilizations have gone too far. Our Earth fleet is the strongest here, so it is natural that our Earth civilization should take the lead. It is simply unreasonable that you still want my Earth battleship. Believe it or not, I will bring the fleet back right away. I no longer care about your life or death. The high-ranking officer of the Earth fleet had a shaggy beard and was cursing loudly. He didn't care at all that among the representatives of several major civilizations, some of them had arms thicker than his own. That's right, look for the bookstore. This is the former killer Liu Yihuzi who had a huge dispute with Jia Yan back then. He joined the Earth fleet before it was founded, and now his status is considered high. Of course, a large part of the reason is that he has a close relationship with the Jia family's son-in-law. However, being able to reach the position of commander-in-chief of the fleet is inseparable from his personal ability. Those of you major civilizations, especially the Asta Empire and the Rulan Empire, don't tell me that I am going back on old accounts. I suffered deeply when you attacked our Earth before, so I will not believe you. Now I want to. If you want me to hand over the battleship, there is no way. Our Earth also wants the command of this battle line. Anyway, our Earth is still far away from the battle line. At worst, if we lose, we will return to the Earth. If you lose, you will be attacked by the enemy immediately. Do you agree or not? You can figure it out yourself. Luo Yi's beard's current appearance is no longer the old look he had before. Instead, he looks younger than when he first met Jia Yan. At the same time, his temper felt like it had returned to a more impulsive age, and he was irritating several major civilizations, especially the senior officials of the Asta civilization and the Rulan Empire fleet, with almost no reason to refute. No, we, the Earth, give up our dominance. I feel like it's been very difficult to code normal chapters recently, so I can't add more updates. I'm sorry everyone. No pop-up novel website. The copyright of all novels included in this site belongs to the author. The plot content and book reviews are his personal behavior and have nothing to do with the position of No Pop-Up Novel Network. All novels and novel reviews on this novel site are spontaneously updated and uploaded by netizens. It only represents the personal behavior of the publisher and has nothing to do with the position of this novel site. All authors are requested to abide by the National Internet Information Management regulations when publishing their works. We reject any pornographic novels and will delete them as soon as they are discovered. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1077. Who dares to tell the Earth to give up its dominance on my behalf? The bearded man's expression changed, and then he looked at the person who made the voice. The top brass of several major imperial fleets also looked at this person. I saw a man walking outside the door of the meeting hall, and none of the soldiers behind him stopped him. In other words, every one of those soldiers looked like they had seen a ghost. Not to mention intercepting them, they couldn't even sound the alarm. When that figure appeared in front of all the senior officials, Luo Yuhuo's whole face was shocked. Every high-ranking member of civilization also had a drastic change in their demeanor. Not long after, the border defense line of the Asta Empire, which had been struggling with foreign work and was almost in disarray, was actually changed with extremely high efficiency. Did you hear it? It is said that the most powerful man in our Orion arm has come to this line of defense. What, are you talking about His Excellency Jia Yan? Didn't you say that he died in the rear area, and he is still alive? This is internal information. It is said that people in the Great Empire have known for a long time that His Excellency Jia Yan is not dead, but they did not tell them because they judged that His Excellency Jia Yan was seriously injured. Telling it would make people feel too unrealistic. Expectations. I didn't expect Master Jia Yan to be so blessed that he didn't die at all. There are a lot of rumors from the outside world, some good and some bad. After all, Jia Yan's existence is not liked by all civilized creatures. Of course, at least now, most people are happy to see the changes in this simple line of defense. Our Earth fleet just handed over the battleship, alas. At the temporary residence of the Earth fleet's top brass, the man with a long beard and a deputy almost sighed. Your Excellency, Colonel, I actually think Lord Jia Yan did nothing wrong. Our Earthlings' ability to operate those battleships is indeed inferior to that of other civilizations. Compared to us, they can exert more powerful combat effectiveness. And the fact that Your Excellency Jia Yan would do such a thing means that he also believes that the enemy we are about to face is far more powerful than we imagined. We cannot allow this line of defense to fail miserably because of some selfish thoughts. The deputy seemed to have a better outlook on the overall situation than his beard. What you said makes sense, but I don't understand. Your Excellency actually said that we Earthlings don't have warships, so we should take ordinary ships back to the Earth. This kind of war is not suitable for us Earthlings who have little war experience. Shouldn't it be more important to observe and learn? As a character who is not very good at strategy, Luo Yuhu's strength lies in actual combat, so now I really don't understand what tricks Jia Yan is playing. Seeing Luo Yuhui's words, the deputy just shook his head slightly. In fact, as a good strategic person, he had long seen that Jia Yan did not seem to have any trust in this front, so he handed over the battleship to several major civilizations. Also because we don't want people on Earth to sacrifice in vain. While the two were discussing, there was a knock on the door. When the door opened, Luo Yuwu and the deputy were both surprised. It turned out that the person who came in was Jia Yan's clone. Now, Jia Yan has his injuries under control, and he looks as neatly dressed as if he was not injured. But he knew that his injuries were still extremely serious. Not to mention fighting, even if he flew for a longer period of time, his injuries would worsen. Of course, outsiders don't understand this. Lord Jia Yan Luo Yibeard was a little frightened when he saw Jia Yan's unclear eyes. In fact, as a person who has dealt with the Jia family for a long time, he felt a faint sense of disobedience towards the Jia Yan in front of him. Especially since he had been in contact with giant mosquitoes several times, he once even doubted whether the giant mosquitoes had anything to do with Jia Yan. However, after Jia Yan's person appeared, he deliberately did not interact with the giant mosquito clan. Regardless of the topic, there seems to be no trace of giant mosquitoes ever existing on the entire planet. But the more this happened, the more he felt there was something fishy inside, so that every time he saw Jia Yan himself, he seemed to be seeing a monster in human skin, and he was frightened and frightened. Of course, if Jia Yan knew what he was thinking, he would definitely be surprised, thinking that he had a keen intuition. You don't seem very satisfied with my decision. Jia Yan didn't say much else, but got straight to the point. The bearded man and the adjutant looked at each other in astonishment. But even though he was frightened, because of his natural bravery, Luo Yibeard shook his head and said, "Sir, I just want to hand over our Earth's battleships to them. What if they don't return them after the war? Or what kind of manipulation was done?" Narrow. Jia Yan glanced at him and retorted directly, "You are several decades older, how come you can't even understand such a simple question? If this war is so easy to fight, Kaowa's defense line will be completely defeated. Well, if they are so easy to fight, I will hand over the battleship to them." Jia Yan is actually very familiar with Luo Yibeard in his heart. He has had too many interactions with him when he was a giant mosquito, so when he speaks now, although he is scolding, there is a hint of intimacy. This made the adjutant look strange. Apparently Luo Yuhuo also noticed this. He looked at Jia Yan with a strange expression, then confirmed that he and Jia Yan didn't seem to have any deep dealings, and then lowered his head. I came here today to give you another order. Now return to Earth, and then organize all the battleships you can organize. No need for big empires, as long as you drive familiar and fierce Earth battleships. Wait until I go back finally, I'm going to conduct a secret training. After Jia Yan said all this, he left the room. What does this order mean, sir? The bearded man looked at the adjutant in surprise, but his usually resourceful adjutant also looked confused this time. Before Jia Yan left the station where the Earthlings were staying, he saw that the Earthlings who were arranging things on the planet had already begun to pack up and prepare to evacuate. Of course, when they came, they took an extremely high-end Imperial battleship, but when they returned, they switched to a low-end Asta Empire aircraft or even a cargo spaceship. Almost everyone complained about it. However, no one dared to refuse Jia Yan's order. Before, I wanted the people on Earth to experience a war, but last night, when my real body transmitted energy again, I suddenly had an idea and thought of something that I had almost forgotten. Jia Yan stood on a high mountain on the defense line planet, looking at the warships and various spaceships coming and going on the entire planet, with a slightly happy expression. This time, the people on Earth don't have to participate in the war. I have a way to give them a stronger fighting power right away. Jia Yan's eyes sparkled. In fact, his plan is very simple. It is the warship skills that the Empress of the Pacific Kingdom of the Northern Star region, once showed him. Matchways tactics. This is a technique of jointly commanding warships, which can even cause the fleet to break into subspace. Although I only learned a little bit about it back then, it seems now that those methods of breaking into subspace are almost related to subspace talents. If I were asked to use them, I could barely achieve them. Jia Yan was looking forward to it in his heart. He does not require that the people on Earth can really pass his temporary training to reach the level of strength that Kama showed in the war. Only temporary self-preservation is needed. Just wait, the real body will arrive in less than a month. Jia Yan was stalling for time. He even handed over the Earth's battleship to the civilization on this defense line just to stall for time. From the beginning to the end, he didn't think that this front could defeat the invading enemy. Although the enemy will only be external fleets with scattered combat power, even Kao's defense line cannot defeat them. Can the defense line organized by the Asta Empire do it? That would be too much to underestimate the other party. The people on Earth retreated very quickly. They had just arrived at the defense line, and now they were just transferring supplies to temporarily found spaceships and aircraft. The entire army was mobilized very quickly. Lord Jia Yan, I will go back right now and mobilize the warships of all civilizations on the Earth according to your request. Okay, remember, we must mobilize everyone, even if we pay a certain price that hinders the development of the Earth. Jia Yan's head relaxed slightly as he looked at the aircraft carrying Earthling soldiers leaving one after another. In the next battle, he wouldn't have to worry too much about casualties. And the day after the people on Earth left the planet's defense line, the expected enemy arrived. Hello everyone in the Orion Arm, we are friendly visitors from the biochemical star field. Please do not resist. We are just distant visitors here for a friendly visit. We will not do anything to the Orion Arm people. The content of the other party's public broadcast is completely opposite to what was done. A total of more than 1,000 external force warships slowly arrived outside the defense line of the Asta Empire planet. Some ordinary people's spaceships that escaped slowly had no chance of escape and were blown up by gunfire. And in front of the huge fleet, flying a powerful monster. Orion Arm creatures, listen, so Jia Yan has also come to this defense line. Tell him to get out and let me see what the so-called strongest man in the Orion Arm is really like. Jia Yan, haven't you killed me before and I'm a bit more powerful? Come and see if you kill me now, do you dare or not, haha. The monster's head and tail reached more than 300 meters, and its strength reached the sub-level, or even the mid-level, and its strength was monstrous. Behind the fleet, several battleships threw out a small technological object every time they reached a starry sky. Then the starry sky became completely different from the surrounding starry sky, and the unique pressure of the Orion arm contained in it disappeared directly. Sir, the other party is so abominable. Knowing that you were seriously injured, he actually used this kind of provocation. On the defensive line, almost every senior defensive line official was gritting his teeth. And above this group of senior officials, sat the clone of Jia Yan, and the defense commander of the Asta Empire who had been introduced. 8. No pop-up novel website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1078. Hearing the other party's provocation, Jia Yan's eyes were vaguely sinister. The surrounding senior officials all knew that Jia Yan was seriously injured and was extremely powerful. It was extremely shameless for the other party to challenge him like this. Haha, Jia Yan, are you afraid to come out? Can such a strong man be called the number one in the Orion arm? This makes me laugh to death. The challenging creature laughed happily outside the defense line, and then looked at the defense line in front, and was about to issue an attack order. At this time, his expression changed slightly. It turned out that on the planet behind the defense line, a creature that, although seemingly small, had vaguely terrifying power, slowly flew up. It's Jia Yan. Jia Yan, what, are you willing to come out and die? That monster was a crab monster in the middle of the second stage. When it saw Jia Yan flying, a hint of eagerness flashed in its expression. You must know that Jia Yan made sneak attacks all the way from their rear, and even dispatched a half-star strong man from the rear to arrest him, but they still failed to catch him. If this biological strong man could kill Jia Yan or even capture him alive, that would be a great achievement. But Jia Yan didn't give him much of a chance. After flying up, behind almost 5,000 battleships of various types in the defense line, he looked at the Guan-level powerhouse with a slightly solemn expression. The strength of this level is much stronger than all the sub-levels my avatar has fought. And his rear. Jia Yan looked at the 1,000 terrifying external warships behind him. Although the number of battleships is smaller than that of the defense line, the opponent's battleships are actually more advanced and larger. On the other hand, on the Asta Planet Defense Line Alliance, the quality of the battleships can be said to be mixed. Looking at the large number, the battleships are no one knows whether it will collapse at the first touch. More importantly, Jia Yan felt that there was a being with even more terrifying energy hidden in this fleet. If this existence were to take action, Jia Yan could not guarantee whether this clone would survive under the protection of numerous warships. This battle seems to be hopeless. Jia Yan calmly and quietly retreated. Jia Yan, you're afraid, aren't you? If you're afraid, it's better to surrender. Although my power is not powerful, I still have the courage to forgive a subordinate like you. The same goes for other creatures present. We people in the biochemical star territory are very friendly. We will not kill those who surrender, and we will let you live a good life. That time, Guanqiang was like a speaker, talking eloquently in the center of the two armies facing each other. But not a single creature here was moved by his words. Almost everyone knows what this biochemical star field force did in places such as the Kaowo defense line, and even the planets that fell will still be massacred. Of course, it can also be said that it is not massacre, but simply using machines to change the starry sky environment to their benefit. As a result, ordinary creatures that are not strong in Orion's arms will die. In this case, who would be interested in surrendering? You continue to talk. The more you talk, the more time we will delay. Jia Yan looked at the words of the strong man, and then in order to delay for a while, he finally spoke. Senior, this powerful man, there is no grudge between our Orion arm and your forces. Why do your forces want to kill my Orion arm? Jia Yan's words were actually nonsense. The other party had been attacking for so long, and almost the children on the roadside knew that they were here for a certain item from the Empire. Even Jia Yan knew that the other party came for the blood of the evolved beasts from hundreds of thousands of years ago. But now it is still unnecessary to ask this question. One more second is a second, and one more minute is a minute. The real body has arrived not far from the Orion arm. As long as the real body can come, this small sublevel will be killed with one front foot. We have already said that we don't like your Orion arm. You came here just for a certain item from the great empire. As long as they are willing to hand over that item, it is not impossible for us to withdraw our troops. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I feel so tired talking to you. Why don't you come closer? It seems that the other party also wants to kill Jia Yan, the strongest person in Orion's arms, before the war, so that his own casualties can be minimized. But Jia Yan won't accept this. Senior, since you want something from the great empire, why do you want to attack our starry sky? The great empire is in the opposite direction. Jia Yan, do you really don't understand, or are you pretending not to understand? Since we have spent a lot of effort to attack, how can we not maximize our interests? If you are unwilling to surrender, just wait for our army to run over, and not only will Orion arm kill them all and take all your resources into your pocket. It has to be said that even if you attack a weak star field like the Orion arm, the cost is still very high. Even if there is blood as a trophy, the opponent will still maximize the benefits of the war, so this is why they will fully attack the entire Orion arm. Biology. And when they encounter such a weak star field, how can they do without training their troops? This is the reason why the opponent has extended the battle line to the entire star field. Humph, you are going too far. As far as I know, your power is not a big power in the biochemical star field. Aren't you afraid that someone will take advantage of you and attack your home base when you are not prepared? Jia Yan snorted coldly, and then almost said something that made the other person's expression change slightly. Without waiting for the sub-level to reply, a disembodied voice sounded from the fleet behind him. Tanga, the other party is stalling for time. Can't you understand such a simple thing? Stop talking nonsense and attack me. The sub-level at the front of the battle line was slightly startled, and seemed to have reacted now and became angry with embarrassment. You actually fooled me, attacked from all fronts, and crushed this rubbish line of defense. At that time, the level almost roared, and then the fleet group behind suddenly pressed towards the defense line. Line up the battleships as I said before and be on guard. Jia Yan also issued the same order, but unlike that time when the creature took the lead and charged, Jia Yan actually flew back quickly. You must know that his current clone is extremely injured, and running into the war is just asking for trouble. Jia Yan, why did you escape? Come back and let us fight openly. The sound of the Guan-level banter was heard in the front line where the war was raging, but Jia Yan didn't listen at all. If you want to fight in an upright manner, why do you want me as a venerable person to do this? It's simply unreasonable. Jia Yan was slightly stunned, but he would not say so much in the flames of war at this moment. In this kind of confrontation between two armies, personal bravery is actually the most important thing. Not so useful. Even if the opponent is a sub-level fighter, if he dares to rush into a battleship surrounded by 5,000 warships alone, he will definitely not be able to survive. It's a pity that the other party won't do this. There is a group of extremely powerful external warships behind him. In the starry sky, 5,000 warships are divided into several large fleets. There are faint formations among them, leaning against each other, and they can fight independently at any time. The opposing fleet also has a similar formation, but compared to the formation here, it is obviously worse. What? How could they have such a battle formation? We were careless. The 1,000 warships rushed to the front of the defense line, and then found that they were facing the gunfire of more than a dozen warships all around them at all times. This was no longer a 5-fold difference in numbers, but a 10-fold difference in numbers. Even though the artillery fire on the defense line was one level lower than the enemy's artillery fire, and the speed and power of the battleships were also a little lower, the gap in numbers was evened out in an instant due to the difference in numbers. Sure enough, the battleship formation obtained by Genius Battlefield can also be used in this war, and it is better than the opponent's. Jia Yan, who retreated to the surface of the star, looked at the group battle of battleships stretching thousands of kilometers across the sky, his eyes flashing slightly. He had thought of the Pinguo comfort tactic before, so he flipped through the information from the Genius Battlefield in his real body, and then chose such a classic battleship formation in group battles, and the result was good. Boom boom boom. It is a pity that the essential gap between the two sides cannot be made up by mere formations. When the war lasted for about 10 minutes, most of the battleships on the front line that fired fiercely fired artillery fire had to reduce their firing speed due to differences in craftsmanship and excessive temperature of the gun barrels. On the other hand, although the other party may exist, temperature problem, but at least it's not time yet. Haha, this won't work anymore, just die. That creature had been targeted and shot by hundreds of battleships before, and was almost in danger. Now it finally felt that the front line artillery fire had dropped, and it immediately jumped forward with great joy, and then shot at the densely packed battle line ships. An unprecedented explosion of light flashed in the sky. After all, the second level is still the second level. Even compared to the Genius second level, they are just a bunch of Xiang, but their strength cannot be underestimated. This attack was enough to destroy more than a dozen warships, clearing the entire starry sky. The 1,000 warships behind also opened fire non-stop. The 5,000 warships began to be unable to stabilize their formation. Originally, this formation could still struggle a little in this situation, but their training was simply insufficient, or they just temporarily listened to Jia Yan's words during the battle and acted out. Formation, how do you understand the next formation change? So all of a sudden, the fleet group was running away, avoiding the fire of war, and the originally crowded posture turned into a drag. Oh! It's really hopeless. Below the star, Jia Yan shook his head helplessly when he saw this battle situation. As for the Asta Empire, he was somewhat familiar with the civilization. Of course, he did not mention any grudges. He only said that the civilization had been pretty good to the Earth recently. Now he had no choice but to sympathize with the tragic future of the civilization. Then Jia Yan didn't think much at all. When the battle situation was one-sided, he jumped into his space capsule. Behind the Asta Empire is the Rulan Empire. There is also a star field bordering the solar system. If the opponent attacks the Rulan Empire first, the solar system will still have some breathing time. If the opponent directly attacks the Earth, then the time will be not much left. RW. No pop-up novel website. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1079. Outside the war-torn life suppression field, a small aircraft with dark light soared into the sky and headed quickly towards the Earth. It's not that Jia Yan is ruthless, but that his current avatar has lost too much combat power. Even if he fights on the Asta defense line, it won't have much effect. His clone is still alive, at least until the real body arrives, to protect the people on Earth. Although Jia Yan had previously decided that while protecting the people on Earth, he should also be the patron saint of the entire Orion arm, but God also has priorities. The core point of protecting people on Earth will never change. Haha, your so-called strongest man has escaped. Is this your Orion Arm's so-called strongest man? I'm laughing so hard. On the battlefield, the second-level person laughed happily. His expression was almost unprecedentedly happy, because this kind of thing that can despise a strong person in a star field is impossible in the outside world. Ah, Master Jia Yan actually ran away without a fight, this and this. Don't blame me, sir. He was seriously injured. It's a great honor to be here to cheer us up. We'll fight hard. Even if we fight hard, Jia Yan can escape. Why should we fight? Just run away, run away. I knew that Jia Yan would not help our Asta Empire. Even though we have helped the Earth a lot, he still holds a grudge. Asshole. The entire battlefield was filled with screams from soldiers and generals. Some were screams before death, and some were screams of disdain for the behavior of Jia Yan, a man who was greedy for life and afraid of death. Of course, all this is useless. No matter what they curse, the enemy will kill them all. There were battleships escaping, battleships fighting, and some that were confused. Almost everyone on the defense line of Asta, the border planet, had no idea. The fighting continued, but it had become a one-sided massacre. The battle at the rear could no longer affect Jia Yan's state of mind, or in other words, there was nothing he could do. With the current strength of his clone, he couldn't help at all. Alas, the Asta Empire is about to perish. I just hope that the Asta people inside will not perish. Jia Yan rode in the space capsule and shot to the limit. The Asta Empire was already in chaos. A female emperor could not rule the empire well, and several major separatist forces were still disrupting the situation. Now that external forces were attacking again, Jia Yan had no hope of how long they could resist. And the eternal kingdom of the earth. Jia Yan's expression was slightly startled, and then there was an inexplicable expression on his face. But his space capsule was still moving fast, flying towards the earth. The solar system, the cradle of Earth civilization, has been in a state of flux recently. Having just welcomed back Jiakai, the well-deserved eldest princess of the Earth, who returned from the Kawo defense line, which is extremely far away for the people of the Earth, the people of the Earth have welcomed an emergency alliance mission from the Asta Empire. Originally, to people on Earth, the Kawo defense line, which is more than 100 light-years away, is like a legend. But they never expected that at such a long distance, the intruder who was originally just a legend would be in front of them so quickly. The question before us is whether to form an alliance or to stand by and do nothing. The answer given by the people on Earth is natural. Since the other party is a racial invader who wants to kill them all, there is no reason why they should not resist. That's why hundreds of advanced warships joined the Asta defense line. But something even more shocking to the people on Earth happened again. When the people on Earth mourned the hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians who join the battle line every day, they actually came to communicate, saying that they had handed over the battleship to the Asta defense line, and they themselves were on ordinary ships of the defense line. Rush back to Earth. How dare they do this without orders from the higher levels of the Earth? Almost everyone on Earth who heard this was angry. You must know that those battleships are almost the most advanced among the current battleships on Earth. They have the most powerful combat power even in the most powerful civilization in the Orion Arm, the Great Empire. The most powerful model. Why did the commander who participated in the battle have the courage and guts to hand them over to the Asta people? In this war to come, any living force is extremely valuable. Commander, who is not afraid of harming the entire Earth civilization. But everyone on Earth knows that the person who issued this order was not the fleet commander, but someone from Jia Yan. Sir Jia Yan is actually fine. I have already said that with your strength, it is impossible for you to die in the enemy's rear. The information from the people of the Great Empire is indeed not trustworthy. That's right, since this is Master Jia Yan's order, it doesn't matter. I guess you have your own foresight. But if the adults return, will our planet be able to avoid casualties? I think, it will be difficult. When it comes to Jia Yan's return, it doesn't matter the hundreds of advanced warships of the great empire. You must know that Jia Yan's return can be said to be a shot in the arm among the panicked Earthlings. But his injuries, as well as the embarrassment of the war behind enemy lines, were concealed because the upper echelons of the Earth's people were afraid that the aura of this top protector would fall because of this. In that case, the already turbulent Earth society would no longer be able to survive. Whether it is the economy or public security, we may soon face a more terrifying overall imbalance. Not long after, the people on Earth received the batch of hundreds of thousands of soldiers who had just set off for the expedition. There were no casualties among them, and a large welcome ceremony was held for them. Even if this group of soldiers thinks they are not worthy of welcome, they go out to fight. Even if they don't even see the shadow of the enemy, they are still worthy of being regarded as heroes by the people. By the way, Lord Jia Yan once told us before we came back that we should carry out all-out war mobilization, even if it hurts the economy and the originally good development momentum, we would not hesitate. Luo Yuhuo directly stated Jia Yan's order at a secret meeting held in Shanghai with a group of high-level people on Earth. So, sir, you also think that the Asta Empire cannot be defended? This is just a small team of the enemy, but it can't even be defended by the coalition forces of several major civilizations around it. If they can't hold on, can we people on Earth hold on? Alas, you have to know that we people on Earth are just a primary civilization that has just entered the universe. Without the help of the great imperial warships, our own combat power can be defeated by any civilization. Destroy us. The huge conference hall was filled with leaders from all walks of life, but now they all look solemn. Even Master Jia Yan, who could be counted on originally, seemed to be unable to count on him this time. The words about his injury from Luo Yibeard's mouth made all the senior officials' expressions change slightly. Moreover, the protector's injuries were caused by the enemy. If someone can do it once, he can do it a second time. Jia Yan's strength now seems to be a bit insufficient. The senior people on Earth who originally thought that Jia Yan was an unfathomable protective umbrella now finally feel the helplessness of not having a protector above their heads. Since the adults have said so, let's mobilize. Even if the world's development is stagnant, we must do it, otherwise we, the Earth's people, will perish as a whole. A group of at least 100 senior executives finally agreed with Jia Yan and made a decision. Not long after they made the decision, the highly efficient propaganda unit directly issued a recruitment order. All people on Earth were shocked to discover that this conscription order was actually mandatory. No matter who you are, as long as you meet the age limit, you must go to the recruitment office for a physical examination. This order cannot be resisted. Even if you can't become a very demanding battleship soldier, you can still go to the bottom. All of this almost has the shadow of the giant Mosquito clan that quickly stabbed the people of the Earth to make a great leap forward in civilization after the metal monster crisis. Of course, we had no choice but to prepare for the upcoming semi-combat aircraft carriers of the Asta Empire and the Rulan Empire. But this time, we have to face far more powerful aircraft carriers than the Asta Empire and the Rulan Empire. The terrifying enemy invades beyond Orion's arms. The only similarity is that both times were crises of destruction. This scene is so similar to what our previous generation experienced. Young people, some of you were very young when you experienced the last crisis. Find bookstore, some of you witnessed it with your own eyes, and now you are also, if you can remember that scene, your parents will fight on the front line with you this time, and it is your turn to fight for your next generation. That's right, as an 18-year-old young man, I can no longer remember the scene clearly, but I can still remember that the giant Mosquito clan that came from outer space and still doesn't know where it is now has a strong influence on us. The selfless help of the people on Earth. Without their help this time, we people on Earth are no longer what we were back then. We must work hard to defeat the enemy on our own. Fight, fight, fight. Just like an instant, the entire earth was covered with clouds of war. Even the upper echelons of the Earthlings themselves were surprised that the Earthlings, who had lived a stable life for more than 10 years, could actually show such terrifying fighting spirit. In fact, if you think about it, you will understand that the crisis of extinction of the Earth's people several times was said to have been a long time ago, but in fact it was only 20 years ago. The young people of that generation are only 30 or 40 years old now, and with the medicine of outside civilization, they can still be said to be young people. This generation still has deep memories of the near annihilation of civilization. Under their propaganda, the younger generation has also been influenced by it, and their fear of destruction has turned into the impulse and strength to defend their homeland and country. There is no need to mobilize too much, and many families even use their accumulated livestock to support the war. On behalf of the Earth Fleet, on behalf of the United Nations, and on behalf of Mr. Jia Yan, as the General Marshal, I conduct another general recruitment of the Earth civilization. Boom. When the General Marshal from an alien civilization, who could hardly believe it before, but is now accepted by everyone on Earth, issued a conscription order, there were countless people who responded. At this moment, a small aircraft flew into the solar system. 8. No pop-up novel website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1080. The recruitment of the people on Earth went extremely smoothly. Not only that, even the major industries that had developed quickly began to change their roles and prepare for the war. This is what Jia Yan saw when he returned to Earth. Even the pollution that had been largely eliminated has returned to the sky, and it is even worse than before. Almost half of the Earth is covered in smoke and dust. With this hard work, my Earth will not perish. Jia Yan nodded, and then did not go back directly to Jia's house. Instead, he headed for the Earthling temporary headquarters in Shanghai and took the space capsule directly. Under the ground, there are still lights everywhere, but compared to before when Jia Yan returned, this time there are much less neon lights shining everywhere, and more of them are factories not far from the city, as well as the lights of the recruitment office. Almost the entire world, where the population has returned to more than 5 billion people, has begun to mobilize uniformly again. Not only the Earth, Jia Yan has seen it before. Similar scenes have begun in many small settlements in the solar system. Even the aliens from the original Earth force who mostly migrated from the gray and yellow stars also regard the Earth civilization as one member claimed to be a member and began a frenzied mobilization. Although their number is small and their development will be less than 10 million in more than 10 years, their combat effectiveness is not weak at all. If they really fight, the people on Earth without large imperial warships will definitely not be able to defeat them. Fortunately, although the relationship between the people on Earth and them is subtle, the trend of integration has begun, and the mutual recognition is getting higher and higher. I believe that through this total mobilization, those alien races will almost be integrated with the people on Earth. In the interstellar world, a large number of warship personnel who had previously joined the military had already assembled. They sailed the primitive warships that the people on Earth were accustomed to, and gathered in the starry sky, waiting for the arrival of the protector god of the entire Earth people. Master Jia Yan, are you back? Jia Yan stepped into the temporary command post that was ready for 24-hour combat. Almost all the senior officials were waiting here. Very good, you did a great job, and the people on Earth did not disappoint me. This was Jia Yan's first sentence. His affirmation did not have any official tone, but was said with extreme caution, because he saw that in the past 20 years, the people on Earth have not felt comfortable because of the end of the war. Your Majesty, it is an honor for us, but now our combat effectiveness is not enough. Sir, do you think we Earthlings can really defeat the enemy? A senior official from the Star-Spangled Banner Nation, who seemed to be a 5-star general in their country, asked Jia Yan in fluent Chinese. The people of the Stars and Stripes are not very optimistic about Jia Yan, and the Geo family has a relatively weak relationship with the Stars and Stripes, so now he dares to question Jia Yan. Victory, Jia Yan looked at him, and then shook his head in disappointment. It's impossible to defeat. What? Does Mr. Jia Yan also think that it is impossible for our Earth to defeat us? Are the people on Earth about to be exterminated? This and this. If we can't defeat it, we must arrange an escape plan now. Even if we can't send all the people on Earth to aliens, we must at least send some seeds. Otherwise, we people on Earth will not be able to save even the last trace of seeds. Does even Lord Jia Yan say we will lose? When Jia Yan's words just came out, all the high-level people on Earth present were not calm. In the past, Jia Yan had always made them feel at ease, but this time Jia Yan directly said that it was impossible to defeat the enemy before starting the war. Wasn't this tantamount to declaring that the people of the Earth were doomed? But Jia Yan's response to them was not despairing. Don't worry, I said we couldn't win, but I didn't say that we people on Earth would perish. All the senior officials were slightly shocked. It was Yuan, the current leader of the Huaxia kingdom, who asked Jia Yan with a wry smile. Master Jia Yan, there seems to be some inconsistency in what you said. We can't defeat the enemy, shouldn't we perish? Are there reinforcements? Don't be so pretentious. Please tell us. Jia Yan looked back at a group of senior officials. Most of them could not sit still because of Jia Yan's words. Some of them even turned pale with fright. It is conceivable that if he left just like that, then this group of powerful people would maybe if I go back, I will think of ways to let some of the children in my family escape and go to alien planets. Even if you escape, you don't know where you should go, or even how long you can survive, but there is always some possibility of survival. Jia Yan let out a long sigh, then looked at the Huasiaku Yuan who had just spoken, and then nodded calmly, yes, we have reinforcements. As long as the people on Earth resist desperately, our reinforcements will come soon. Huh? The reinforcements, are they from the Great Empire? It shouldn't be possible. The Great Empire is too busy taking care of itself now, and it still has the thoughts to care about the affairs of our planet. A group of senior executives were confused. But Jia Yan only told them this, and did not tell them about their true identity, that is, the giant Mosquito clan that the people on the Earth thought would come to their aid. After all, in this case, the giant Mosquito clan known to the people on the Earth, it is also impossible to save the Earth. It's better to be mysterious and speak with facts. With Jia Yan's assurance, the Earth's top brass finally have more confidence. But what happened still happened. Jia Yan had just finished talking with a group of senior officials about the specific matters of the war. When he stepped out of the conference hall all night, he felt that in some places on the Earth, some mysterious large escape ships were directly take off. Forget it, they are willing to suffer in the universe, and I can't stop them. But those high-level officials will definitely have to be replaced when the crisis is over. Jia Yan looked at the sky lightly, not angry. Because this kind of thing is human nature, even he will send the Geo family relatives away from the Earth if the war really goes wrong and his real body cannot catch up. In the crisp morning air, I slowly flew back to Jia's home. Because of his injury, Jia Yan did not fly very fast. Uncle, you are back. Just as Jia Yan stepped into the sky above the Geo family building, a figure rose from the ground. She was a pretty little girl, with a slight bit of cute baby fat. She looked childish and had the unique youthful spirit of a girl. She is a beautiful girl that anyone on Earth will feel deeply attracted to when they meet her. However, compared to her beautiful appearance, what is more prominent is her identity, which is the well-deserved number one Princess Jia among all the people on Earth. Of course, the Geo family is not known as a princess at all to the outside world. It's just that the people on the Earth have shouted so and it has become a reality. Even if Jia jumps out and says that she is not a princess, no one will believe it. Well, little Kikai, it seems you look good. Were you not punished by your mother when you came back? Jia Yan looked at the little niece who was flying up with some interest. The little guy didn't seem to be unhappy at all. Could it be that he was not punished even after returning from Kaowo defense line? Yes, my mother hit me hard, but I'm not afraid. She's not even on Earth level. I don't feel any pain. Jia Qi stuck out her little tongue and said to Jia Yan cutely secretly, Uncle, don't tell Mom that I was pretending to be in pain. If she knew about it, she would definitely think of other ways to punish me. Jia Yan shook his head and smiled. My sister Jia Lin probably doesn't know this, but she doesn't have much to do with her daughter. After all, Jia Qi has almost reached the peak of the heaven level. As an ordinary girl, there is not much she can do to punish her. But at least Jia Qi still knows that fear is better than relying on strength, and even her parents don't look down on her. Huh? Jia Rong is actually at the top of the sky level and is going to hit the starry sky level. Jia Yanggong and Jia Qi landed on the ground of Jia's house together. Because of their late detection sense after being injured, they immediately felt the changes in a house. Yes, uncle. I thought you knew that some time ago. It was my aunt who had just succeeded in reaching the starry sky. In the past few days, it has been my cousin's turn. He is so talented. I haven't even reached the top of the starry sky, but he has just passed. I have so much. Jia Qi responded to Jia Yan, and then seemed to feel unhappy because she was being hummed so much by her cousin. You must know that she has had brainwave power since she was a child. Now that a boy of several years old has passed her so much, of course she is unhappy. Even though Jia Rong seems to have an unusual body. You are already powerful enough. Jia Yan shook his head slightly. At the same time, he was also surprised. It turned out that Satsuma Temple had also been promoted to the starry sky level. No wonder he had vaguely felt that there seemed to be a strong energy fluctuation in the Jia family's land. After sensing Jia Rong's breakthrough, Jia Yan felt relieved. The child's physique had inherited a trace of his true body's blood, and his mother's genes were also good. Now that he had just been promoted to the starry sky level, there was no danger of any bottlenecks at all. Uncle and uncle. Just after sensing Jia Rong's breakthrough, a bouncing little guy who was almost the same model as Jia Qi when he was a child ran out of the house. She threw herself into Jia Yan's arms, and her happy look was very contagious. Brother, you're back. It's been so many years since you left. I don't know if you'll come back more often. Alas. Following the little girl was Jia Lin's familiar face. Jia Yan was a little emotional. After receiving the medicine from the Great Empire, his sister's appearance had reversed its growth, and now she has returned to her appearance when she was 16 years old. He was so happy and angry that he could recall the events of those years at a glance. Jia Yan met his sister and his family, and then went to meet his parents. Jia Yan was very happy that not only his sister, but also his parents, who were supposed to be 60 years old, had returned to their prime. Even Jia Yan thought that his mother looked like a teenager. More than 10 years old, this makes Jia Yan very satisfied. Just because his parents can live a long life, this kind of thing makes his ups and downs over the years pay off. However, if this crisis cannot be overcome, then these happy things will turn into sadness. After Jia Yan came back and saw them, he became more determined in his decision to defend against the enemy. 8. No pop-up novel website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1081. Brother, are the outside invaders really coming soon? Do you think the Earth will be in danger this time? In the Jia family, the family gathered together for lunch, and then Jia Lin asked this question. As a result, the whole family stopped their chopsticks and looked at Jia Yan expectantly. Yes, they are coming. The Earth will experience a war, but there will be no danger of destruction. Jia Yan replied solemnly. That's good. If something happens to the Earth, I won't leave. I'll live and die with my hometown here. I'm old and I don't want to go to an alien planet. It's too tiring. Jia's father, Jia Shen, is a man who doesn't like to talk, but he actually said this at this moment. I'm not leaving either. If anything happens, let a few more children from Earth go. I'll stay at home with the old man. Jia Mu also shook her head, then looked at her husband, agreeing with his words with a look of shared suffering. Mom and Dad, please don't say that. Jia Lin was almost crying. You don't need to leave. I said, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. Jia Yan was silent for a while and then said this with a smile. After lunch, Jia Yan came to the house assigned to him in the Jia family. The clone's injury still hasn't improved much. Even if the real body continues to transfer energy, it can't make the injury better. It seems that the injury won't be cured for more than a year. Jia Yan felt his injuries, and then let out a long sigh. This clone really couldn't be compared with the real body. If it were the real body, let alone whether he would be so seriously injured, even if he was so seriously injured. Maybe it will be fine in a few days. He was anxious. What his parents said before made Jia Yan even more stressed. Jia Yan can understand the mentality of his parents. They have never left the Earth until now. Jia Yan originally persuaded them to leave the Earth and travel outside, but they were unwilling to do anything. If we went to an alien planet and took a look, maybe we wouldn't be so stubborn now, but at this point it's too late to say anything. If they are unwilling to leave, then there is only one person who can do it, Jia Yan. That is to protect the solar system. No matter how bad it is, we can't let enemies from the outside attack the Earth. This is the last bottom line that Jia Yan can use to protect his parents, because if the war spreads to the Earth, no one knows whether anything will happen to Jia Yan's parents. My sister's family is different. If they are willing to leave the Earth, they must arrange their escape. Because of this war, I have no confidence. Jia Yan had just thought about what needed to be done and was about to get up and leave Jia's house when he heard a knock on the door. Please come in. He frowned, actually he already knew who it was. But Jia Yan doesn't have much time. He always takes time out when he comes home. Next, he will go to space for emergency training of the Earth fleet. The door opened, and then a beautiful scenery appeared in front of Jia Yan. This is a beautiful woman, wearing a red dress and light red makeup. She has a temperament and a hint of seduction. She is Satsumadan, and she is also an alien creature who seems to be entangled with Jia Yan now, and the relationship between them is unclear. Jia Yan, I'll go to space with you, she said directly after entering the door. No, you are not strong enough. This opponent is not ordinary, and you cannot fight against it as a star-level player. Jia Yan shook his head. He didn't know how he felt about Satsuma-chan. It seemed to be more than an ordinary friend, but he didn't like it that much either. In short, it is very contradictory. With your current strength, you might not even be able to defeat me. If you can do it, I can do it too. Satsuma Kono's expression was the same as when he spoke normally. He was still light and had the feeling of an iceberg beauty. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly. In fact, even if he was injured again, there was a black hole in his body, and the real body kept transmitting energy. It was more than enough to deal with a mere starry sky level, but he could not really fight Satsuma Kono. One plane. Well, you can go if you want, but you can't interfere with my affairs. And no matter what the circumstances, if I need you to leave, you have to leave. If you can agree to the above points, just come with me. My time is very tight. Jia Yan didn't say much and immediately walked out of the gate. Without any surprise, Satsumakan followed. I know more about the biochemical empire than you do, and I might be able to help, Satsumakan said. Jia Yan nodded and flew directly outside the house without saying anything. Satsuma-chan followed up, his posture perfected, and his flying posture was very graceful. But even if Jia Yan was injured, his flying speed was not something that Satsuma-can could keep up with. Especially when flying out of the Earth's atmosphere, Satsuma-can could hardly break through gravity and it was very difficult. After all, she is only in the early stage of the starry sky. In theory, she can break through the starry sky freely, but she is not really able to move around in the starry sky. Jia Yan sighed helplessly, and then a wave of brainwave power was released, wrapping up the Satsuma niche and flying towards space like lightning. Looking at Jia Yan flying ahead, Satsuma's dark eyes didn't know what he was thinking, and then his red lips curled up slightly and he smiled lightly. Perhaps this was the first time that she had shown such a natural smile in front of Jia Yan as a human being. It was so beautiful that it was too beautiful to take in. Unfortunately, Jia Yan, who was flying in front, was still thinking about things and did not notice her at all. Smile. Under the earth, a small figure in the Geo family building complex looked at the starry sky where nothing seemed to be visible. "Mom, come on." Jiarong raised his fist and shouted to the sky. "This little brat." Above the sky, Jia Yan shook his head slightly. This is not the time when Jia Yanhua was in front of the moon, and although he doesn't have many prejudices against Satsuma Kono, his feelings for her are still not love, so he has no intention of anything happening with Satsuma Kono this time. Idea. Lord Jia Yan, the fleet has been prepared for a day and is roughly ready to set sail. Just when Jia Yan was flying outside the atmosphere, a huge fleet had already arrived in front of Jia Yan. In other words, it has always been waiting there. This is a fleet of more than 3,000 warships. Although most of them are not as good as the great imperial warships, in general they are much better than the junk made by the people on Earth more than 10 years ago. Some of these battleships were made by the people on Earth themselves, and more were given as gifts by major writers in the past, or bought by people on Earth at a price. They are the only regular cosmic force on the Earth now, and most of them are well trained. Of course, this is for Earthlings. Compared with the fleets of alien civilizations, not only the quality of the soldiers is worse, but also the quality of the battleships. I don't know how much difference there is in actual combat experience. The Earth fleet has been on standby in space for a long time, and the entire army is full of fighting spirit to protect the country. Very well, let's set off, but this time we are pressed for time, so we will train directly at the Earth's 30,000-kilometer orbit. There is no time to go further. Jia Yan nodded and took Satsuma Kono directly into the flagship of the Earth fleet. Battleship training originally had to be conducted at least 1,000,000 kilometers away from the Earth. This was a distance set by Jia Yan himself. But now there is no time, the Earth is in danger, and this small distance will naturally ignore the past. Master Jia Yan, long time no see. Inside the flagship, a red-haired figure who looked like a woman was standing pretty at the hatch. When she saw Jia Yan, she immediately came up to him with a smile. Her appearance is also extremely perfect, especially the red hair that is different from ordinary people on Earth, which makes her stand out from the crowd. It is almost impossible for women on Earth to match her beauty. Satsuma-gon, who was following Jia Yan, seemed to notice at first glance that this woman had an unusual relationship with Jia Yan. Then she took a closer look at the other person and immediately felt familiar. It turns out that Satsuma Kono had met each other decades ago, and the two sides even had some feuds. Daifune, have you withdrawn from the Rulan Empire? Very good. Your ability to command the battleships can help me to a certain extent. Jia Yan's eyes suddenly lit up when he saw the woman. It turns out that she was the Rulan Empire biochemical person Daifune who came to Grey Huang Star with Jia Yan, experienced many thrilling battles, and finally escaped from Grey Huang Star together. It has been many years since she was appointed as the ambassador of the Rulan Empire. But after so many years, Daifune seems to have not changed at all. There is nothing surprising about Jean. After all, she has lived for more than 300 years before. With her powerful genes, her lifespan is still very long. It is not surprising that she is still young now. Ms. Satsumanich, hello. Daifune saw the Satsumanich behind Jia Yan, and then nodded with the same smile, but the hostility in her eyes could still be easily detected. Hello. Satsuma's expression was still cold, but his eyes reflected Daphne's face, which didn't look so friendly. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly, but before he could say anything, other Earth fleet executives on the side had already stepped forward to introduce the current situation of the fleet. From their words, Jia Yan heard the true situation of the Earth fleet today. Among these senior executives, the alien senior executives from back then still account for a large part. After all, it is impossible for Earthlings without real combat experience to completely take over the leadership of the fleet now. This is what Jia Yan is committed to do. As long as the people on Earth slowly accept some of their alien colleagues, then maybe the group of Earth Force alien creatures he brought back then can truly integrate into Earth civilization, and then it's time for people on Earth to unite as one and work together to develop. Do you think our fellow outsiders from Mars will also send a fleet of battleships over? When Jia Yan heard a piece of information, he was slightly startled. There was a lot of information in these words, one of which was that the members of the original Gray and Yellow Planet Earth forces who settled on Mars have now developed a fleet of their own. Jia Yan really didn't know this. No pop-up novel website. The copyright of all novels included in this site belongs to the author. The plot content and book reviews are his personal behavior and have nothing to do with the position of No Pop-Up Novel Network. All novels and novel reviews on this novel site are spontaneously updated and uploaded by netizens. It only represents the personal behavior of the publisher and has nothing to do with the position of this novel site. All authors are requested to abide by the National Internet Information Management Regulations when publishing their works. We reject any pornographic novels and will delete them as soon as they are discovered. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1082. Of course, with his strong combat power before, even if the alien creatures on Mars had a fleet, they would not be able to cause any trouble. It's just that they have a fleet and they hide it, which is really not a good sign. The second point of Jia Yan's concern is that Mars also believes that this crisis requires everyone's cooperation to survive, so he will come to help even if he reveals that he has a fleet. At least from this point of view, it can be seen that the other party is not too hostile to the Earthlings. As long as they don't cause trouble in the future, for the sake of helping out this time, forget it. I hope that with this cooperation, the barriers between the people on Earth and them will disappear. Jia Yan sighed helplessly. Just the news that the opponent sent out warships to assist was good news for him. After all, he had an extra fighting force. Also, Mr. Jia Yan, just 1 minute before your arrival, we received a request for asylum from the royal family of the Asta Empire. It seems that the Asta Empire is in danger. Their royal family wants to come to our Earth for political escape. Difficult. When Jia Yan heard the news, he was slightly startled. Is the Asta Empire going to die so soon? This is impossible. Jia Yan was almost a little shocked. If the Asta Empire couldn't stop it for so little time, then he would have no time to train the people on Earth. And he didn't believe that the Asta Empire could not hold on anymore, because even though the Asta Empire was having internal conflicts, its actual combat effectiveness had improved a lot because of the civil war. Besides, the Asta Empire had a vast territory. Even if it was flying, it is impossible for the outside fleet to defeat the Asta Empire so quickly. Sir, in fact, not only the Asta Empire, but also the Rulan Empire, as well as several major surrounding civilizations, have made similar applications. It seems that they will also send some warships over. See what they mean, they want to join us. Solar system, form another line of defense. The high-ranking alien who reported to Jia Yan was the Noodle Man who came to Earth with Jia Yan's giant Mosquito, and he was a think tank-like existence. It's just that he is not familiar with the current Jia Yan, and it can even be said that he doesn't understand it at all, so he speaks cautiously now. It turns out that it's not that the Asta Empire has been captured now, but that they want to build a new line of defense in my solar system. Well, I'm still worried about the lack of strength of the people on Earth themselves. Jia Yan nodded, indicating that he could agree to these civilizations' applications. It's just that if these civilizations apply now, by the time they come, it will be around the time of the fall of the Asta Empire, and there will be no time to train together, so all Jia Yan can train now is the Earth fleet. Our Earth fleet estimates that within a month we will be able to obtain another 1,000 warships from major processing units in the solar system. This is already the industrial level of the entire Earth's full-scale explosion. Jia Yan is counting time and the power he can use now. With the current Earth fleet of more than 3,000 warships, plus the previously reported 200 warships from Mars, the total is about 3,500. If construction is accelerated, 1,000 new warships will be launched in a month. This is already an order of magnitude. It's shocking. The Earth is not a big empire, with a population of hundreds of billions. It can explode an industrial miracle and produce 1,000 warships in a month. This level of warship potential is probably an exaggeration in the entire Orion arm. Of course it is not. The people on Earth are more powerful, but the people on Earth have just experienced several major crises and are extremely afraid of danger. This is the memory of genocide that is deeply ingrained in the bones of all people on Earth. Under this awareness of danger, reserve mobilization of war resources is sufficient. It is said that the current great empire, facing the main force of external forces, is able to produce thousands of new warships every day. Although it is still losing ground, it has shown that it can resist for a long time. This is the war of a truly powerful civilization. Potential. This group of Earth fleets should face the 1,000 enemy warships. If they attack the Asta Empire, they will lose about dozens of ships. This will have no impact on their total strength at all, so the enemy that needs to be confronted is still 1,000 external warships. Jia Yan thought about the comparison of strengths between the two sides and couldn't help but take a deep breath. Although the number of Earth's warships will be large, don't say that their technological strength is much weaker than the opponents. Even if they are the same size, only 3 or 5 ships can defeat one of others. The same goes for the artillery fire. The artillery fire of one of their warships is not only more powerful, extremely powerful, the number is also the number of cannons fired by 5 Earth battleships. In addition, there are age differences in the detection system, armor gaps, brain aiming systems, and so on. If another commander saw such a gap, it would be easier to surrender directly instead of shouting to kill. Sir, what should we do now? There is a huge gap in strength. How about we issue an order first and let a group of young people on Earth retreat to the civilization behind them? The Noodle Man saw Jia Yan's expression and asked. In fact, if Jia Yan's strength is still there, then he would dare to go head-to-head with the opponent. But now, Jia Yan's injury can be seen by anyone with a discerning eye to be less optimistic, so he thinks it is better to prepare for the worst first. Point. No, the Earth is still fully developing industry. I don't want this kind of thing to affect the enthusiasm of most people. Jia Yan denied the suggestion. The Earth's fleet, which had been waiting for a long time, finally set sail. In fact, seeing the current Earth fleet, Jia Yan really felt helpless. It's not because of the helplessness that the warships are lagging behind, but more because of the level of the fleet members. With no actual combat experience and too few new warships driven, All the soldiers of the Earth fleet wished they had instructions at hand when operating the warships. This level of proficiency made even Satsuma-chan, who didn't have much expression, feel a little disappointed on his face. After being on Earth for many years, she also fell in love with the culture and feeling of Earth. Especially since her son was still on Earth, she really didn't want Earth to lose. Jia Yan, I actually also know some battleship operating skills. Although it is not as good as that of large civilizations, I still know it better than the soldiers of the Earth fleet. How about I also teach a few battleships? Seeing Jia Yan teaching the Earth fleet soldiers, almost starting from scratch one by one, Satsuma-can stood up. At the same time, Daphne also stepped forward. She already had a lot of experience in commanding battleships, especially the previous Earth force on the Grey Star. She almost single-handedly commanded the forces that flew to Earth from a few light years away. Her performance at this point is very good. Jia Yan longed for more basic helpers, and he agreed to Satsuma Shrine's request without much thought. The entire Earth fleet is making rapid progress every day under tremendous pressure. Daifune and Satsuma-can were okay, they still had basic knowledge training at best. But what Jia Yan took out was completely different. That's something without the art of the Orion arm battleship. Even after a week passed, Jia Yan said something again, which even surprised the alien creatures such as Daifune and Satsuma-can. Okay, all ships, listen now. You have roughly learned the basics. Even if you haven't learned it, you should practice it without eating, drinking, or sleeping, because I don't have more time to teach you the basics. Next, I'm going to teach you a battleship coordination technique. You don't need to understand the principles of this tactic, but you must be quick with your hands and feet. It's called the overmatch tactic. Earth soldiers, there is so much pressure these days. Not only must they immediately master the basics of operations that they have not mastered for several years, but they must also be caught by Jia Yan's mistakes all the time, and then practice again and again. When the energy is low, it will be replenished immediately. When the energy is low, the prepared imperial potion will be poured in immediately. Under this intense training, every day there are soldiers who suffer from physical problems due to lack of sleep or too much stress. But they all endured it. In about a week, the fleet from Mars also arrived. This small fleet with only more than 200 battleships was basically much more reliable than the people on Earth, so they could immediately join the fleet as soon as they arrived. Tactical training. No one knows what the Biguo Way tactic is, not even the few maintenance personnel from the Great Empire who came with the battleship have never heard of it. The millions of soldiers and civilians in the entire fleet were like headless flies, following Jia Yan's request, scurrying around in the starry sky. If it wasn't Jia Yan who issued the order, someone at the top might have jumped out to question it. But private doubts are inevitable. But as long as no one objects to it, time flies by in intense training. What's going on? Just now our monitoring system can no longer detect the surrounding star maps, and the particles in the universe have disappeared, as if we were not in the universe just a moment ago. I also feel weird. My strength is at the heaven level. I originally had a good physique, but just now my whole body was twisted. I thought I was going to be torn apart. Finally, after more than half a month of extremely arduous training, during a certain training session, most of the soldiers noticed unusual changes. Me too, what's going on? I was in so much pain just now. I thought something was wrong with my body. Why is this happening? Could it be that this is what Mr. Jia Yan calls the tactic of overcoming Wei? But what is the principle? None of the soldiers, even the higher UPS, including several expatriates from the Great Empire who guided the Earth fleet, could understand what was going on. Only inside the fleet flagship, Jia Yan smiled. Smiling happily. The hard work he had been doing these past few days was not in vain. With his overtime training, Yu Wei's tactics finally appeared for the first time. You are right, this is the Pingwa way tactic, but it is only the first time for you to experience it. Next, we will work harder. As long as this tactic can be perfectly successful, our Earth will be saved this time. Jia Yan's voice echoed throughout the fleet radio. Thanks to the book friends who tipped it off, thank you. 8. No pop-up novel website. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1083. Within the interstellar space, a fleet of 2,000 battleships was moving rapidly through the starry sky. Although the scale of this fleet is slightly smaller than the Earth's fleet, the size, power, and even appearance of the battleships are no different. But the state it is showing now does not seem to be that powerful. It is flying forward as if it is running for its life. Yes, this fleet is running for its life. Moreover, the one fleeing for his life in the ship was none other than Empress Osto, the most noble figure in the Osto Empire at present. Sister, isn't the Earth we are going to be very close? Is it useful to escape so close? Will they chase us? An Osto girl, about 11 or 12 years old, stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking at the starry sky behind her, feeling vaguely sad. Beside her, a woman who looked like a girl in her 20s touched her little head, and then said solemnly, "They may come after me, but we don't have to be afraid, there is a great hero on the earth. He will help us hold off the enemy. I know, he is Master Jia Yan, right? He helped you become the Empress back then." The little girl giggled, as if her elder sister and Master Jia Yan were similar. "Speaking of which, how could Mr. Jia Yan, how could he like such a dirty woman like me?" The Empress suddenly changed her expression in a rare move, and the words she spoke made the little girl Xiaoxun's expression froze slightly, and then she did not dare to talk about this topic anymore. Regarding Empress Xiao, the work she did on the chaotic border of the Osta Empire back then was a secret among secrets in the Osta Empire. Even now, Xiaoxun does not understand what her sister did. She just learned from her sister's past. Judging from their own performance, she could vaguely guess it. "Okay sister, we can go to Earth anyway. I also know the Master Jia Yan you are talking about. Didn't you say he was injured before? Can he still protect us like this? I don't think it is possible." Xiaoxun stopped teasing her sister about Jia Yan, and asked solemnly. "I don't know either, but I feel that he can defend the solar system. After all, that is his hometown. And Xiaoxun, you haven't seen him with your own eyes. You don't understand at all. This man is very capable. Even if he is injured, he is definitely not a character who can be easily defeated." "I understand. I heard you mention him every day, so I went to check. Didn't he destroy a small fleet of the Rulan Empire in the solar system, and then show off his power in our Osta Empire and the Rulan Empire? I know all this. I have also read the history of the Earth. Although the people on this Earth are very similar to us Osta people, their beliefs are very strange. Besides Jia Yan, what kind of giant mosquito clan did they worship before? Strange race. Xiaoxun doesn't seem to be so friendly to Earth civilization and Jia Yan. After all, she was relatively young when she became Princess Asta, and she had almost forgotten the misery she had experienced as a child. All that remains now is her arrogance as a princess. She was disgusted that the Earth civilization could actually be a junior civilization and be able to talk to Asta. "Stop talking, you also know Lord Jia Yan's strength. Even if he is injured, you can't be too rude when you see him, otherwise he can destroy our exile fleet with just one word." Sensing her sister's hostility towards Earth civilization, Empress Xiao quickly stopped her. "As for the giant mosquito clan on Earth, I have asked scholars before. It has only been a few years since the giant mosquito clan disappeared. Many data on the Earth can provide evidence that they once existed, but where are they now? No one knows, but they have saved the Earth before and have no objections, so you can't be too rude to these giant mosquitoes, you know." TCH, you can't be rude to Jiayan, and you can't be rude to the people on Earth. You can't be rude to a race that doesn't even know whether it exists now. I'm a really tired princess. Xiaoxun was almost unhappy. She had been a princess for so long, and she had never felt so uncomfortable. No matter how the two sisters talked, Osta's exile fleet still rushed towards the solar system without hesitation. In fact, after the emergence of the Great Empire, the Osta Empire has also received huge benefits. For example, the warships they are driving now, these more than 2,000 advanced warships, all come from the Great Empire, because they have not had previous contact with more advanced civilizations such as the Great Empire. So many of the important resources of the Osta Empire were not utilized. As a result, the Great Empire came and purchased large quantities at low prices, and the Osta Empire received these 2,000 advanced warships, which were lifeblood. Without this fleet, it would have taken at least several years for the Empress and her group to fly to Earth using warships produced by their own empire. At this time, it has been a month since the Battle of the Osto border line. After the border defense battle, the 1,000 biochemical starfield battleships began to attack crazily in the Osto Empire. Although all the forces in the Osto Empire tried their best to resist, under the overwhelming advantage, the Great Empire still declared its fall within a month. In fact, there are several civilizations similar to the Osta Empire. In addition to these 1,000 external warships wreaking havoc within the Osta Empire, there are also two similar fleets attacking surrounding civilizations. Each of these civilizations couldn't resist, so they figured out the next best defense point. Earth. Although the civilization on Earth is not a powerful civilization, there is a person in this civilization who is known as the strongest in the Orion arm. Even if there are rumors from the outside world, this strong man is seriously injured, and even if he recovers, he will not be able to return to his peak in just a month or two. But the strong are still strong. No matter how weak this Lord Jiayan is, he is definitely stronger than any strong person in the surrounding civilization. This is a recognized fact. So it was only natural that they decided to use their remaining troops to build another line of defense on Earth. Hey, sister, are we almost there? I seem to see on the star map that we are approaching the solar system. When he was playing with his brain and said these words, sure enough, a warning communication from a distant place was transmitted to the Osta Exile Fleet communication channel. The fleet ahead, this is the Earth Civilization Galaxy. Please identify your force. Otherwise, in accordance with interstellar laws, this civilization will regard your fleet as an enemy and launch an attack. Upon receiving this news, the Osta fleet, which had originally negotiated with Earth civilization, immediately sent its identity, as well as the previously negotiated keys and other information. Soon, a figure from Earth appeared in the communication channel. Everyone from Osta, Earth civilization welcomes you. This was an official from the Foreign Affairs Command who received alien civilization. After he finished speaking, Ostoan was allowed to go. This is. When the Osta fleet flew into the asteroid belt of the solar system, the entire fleet fell silent for a moment. They saw a scene that shocked them. They didn't see any unexpectedly powerful defensive front, nor did they see any advanced defensive weapons system. On the contrary, they saw that in the outermost defensive place of the Earth, there were only some interstellar materials with artillery fire, and looking at it like that, even if Osta's fleet stood there and allowed artillery fire to attack, the artillery fire might not be able to penetrate the battleship's armor even if the artillery fire continued for several years. Is this the Earth's defense? With this level of outer defense, even if we randomly find an interstellar material place in the universe, the defenses we build will be hundreds of times stronger than theirs. A senior member of Osta's fleet almost whispered. In fact, it's not surprising. Earth civilization is just a primary civilization that has just stepped into the universe. They can't build the warships that they can fly here now. They can only rely on donations from other civilizations or purchase warships from great empires. If they can build such warships, the fortifications are pretty good. Is it really right for us to come to Earth to help defend ourselves? You must know that Master Jia Yan has also been seriously injured. The soldiers were shocked and doubtful, as were the senior officials in the flagship. Even Xiaoxuan, who was with Empress Xiao, also saw the backwardness of Earth civilization. Sister, is this the defense line of Earth civilization you are talking about? I think it is much closer than the defense line we failed in. Sister, we'd better not stay here on Earth and escape to the civilization behind. Anyway, the fleet, the energy is enough. Xiaoxun advised her sister. Xiaoxun, let's go over and take a look first. When the Earth communicated with us over long distances before, he said that Mr. Jia Yan had already thought of some solutions. Let's go over and take a look. If it really doesn't work, we can discuss leaving. Matter. Xiao also felt a little regretful when she saw the actual outer defense of Earth civilization. The Earth seemed to be even more backward than she imagined. And under the guidance of an Earth battleship, all the way forward, the real Earth defense line that the Asta fleet believed did not appear. When we arrived near Mars, this was the first line of defense we really saw. Welcome, everyone from the Asta Empire. This is a battle weapon composed of more than 10,000 small aircraft. They are led by dozens of battleships and are on standby near Mars. It turns out that the Earth's population is too small, and it is impossible to defend an entire galaxy, so we only have troops in important places. Some Asta senior officials saw at a glance the biggest disadvantage of Earthlings. But before they could think more, outside the Martian defense line, a battleship had already emerged from the crowd and arrived in front of the 2,000 battleships of the Asta Empire. We meet again, Empress of the Asta Empire. I am Daphne, the diplomatic envoy of the Earth Defense Line. The Earth Defense Line welcomes you. Time is too tight. Please invite everyone from the Asta Empire to join us in the training of the defense line. Otherwise, we may not be able to catch up with the next war. RW. No pop-up novel website.